thing we've discovered with what's happening with Dangote at the moment is the fact that on paper, Nigeria, what's on paper doesn't always smoothly translate to reality. Outside that, we also have the issues with the Harcourt Refinery. Plenty of promises have been made by the government. Dates have been shifting for years on now. And in fact, the latest one is pointing towards the direction of the end of this year. Would it also be a reality? We cannot tell. We do not know. And how all of these affect the market? Well, we'll find out. My guest this morning is the national president of PETROAN. He would be speaking with us on the show this morning, perhaps to give better perspective to some of these issues. Let's welcome Mr. Billy Gillis-Harry. Sir, you're welcome, and thank you for making out time to join us.
Thank you so much, Nigeria Info, for having me. Good morning, Nigeria.
Good morning. Let's start with your response to this question first. And that's the question we're posing to our listener as well on Facebook, where we're streaming live at Nigeria Info 92.3 PH. So you can watch and listen to us at the same time. Don't forget to drop your comments. How do you think modular refineries would have fared or would fare when you look at what we're seeing happening with the Dangote Refinery and all of these allegations and drama? I mean, since that refinery was launched and the promises for petrol to come out, there were first of all problems of even getting crude. It was a serious problem. We're wondering why he had to, import crude from America, from Ethiopia, from, I beg your pardon, Rwanda, and we're wondering what is happening. So, can you tell us from your experience with what you're seeing happening with the Dangote Refinery and the back and forth? Would modular refineries have fared any better?
Well, first of all, modular refineries, as they're operating now in Nigeria, do not refine PMS. They just refine those other intermediate products like diesel, naphtha, kerosene, and a few other, derivatives, crude oil. They have also been crying out for the longest. And I think if their cries were not heard, because I recall that PETROAN has always been in the support of ensuring that these refineries are properly stocked with diesel, with crude oil, so that they can produce what we need, at least minimally. If you have 15 modular refineries producing even 1,000 barrels per day, that will give us quite a lot of refined products in country. So they've been suffering the same thing. I think it got to the point where the president has to order that these refineries should be considered as priority. So whether that has happened is what we cannot tell, but so far, we go to the modular refineries, we put in our request, and when product is available, they give us whatever they have. So, but I think the situation should change, where our internal domestic consumption should be prioritized, so that way Nigerians don't suffer. There's quite a lot of suffering already in the land, and if we do have crude oil and gas as part of our natural assets that God has blessed us, we should also benefit from there. So that's the situation.
From all you've said, it's sounding as though the solution to the petrol and diesel problem we have in the country and the price fluctuation is not just going to be solved by building refineries. I mean, it's looking like we have more problems, more fundamental problems than we thought. I mean, for many people, build refineries, modular refineries, and you're saying now even the modular refineries, getting products is a problem. And many expected the modular refineries to also put out PMS, but as it stands, just diesel. And that's even a problem because diesel is still very expensive. And now it seems as though the Dangote Refinery is the hope for diesel. And people are saying that's even expensive. So is it safe to say that even starting the refineries and building the refineries and modular refineries would not solve our problem. Are there other issues that we need to look at beyond just building these facilities?
Well, when you build a refinery, you're expected to present a business plan. Your business plan and feasibility should clearly show how you intend to get a feedstock of crude oil to be able to refine. And I believe that all refineries that are existing today went through that process. But we are just pegged at producing 2 million barrels today. So don't forget that. And even at 2 million barrels, we're having challenges meeting up quota. Why is that so? Production is hampered by several difficult pipelineization, unrest, insecurity, lack of transparency by the operating government policies that are flip-flopping. So different symptoms. So I think that
Mr. Gillis-Harry, we can't hear you clearly. Okay, yes, sounds a lot better now. Yeah, go on. All right, I think it's still a problem. I don't know if you can hear us clearly. I don't know if whether you're using any device, perhaps earpods or earpiece or any of those. If you are, perhaps you disconnect and just try to speak directly into the phone. Maybe that would help. I do not know. Otherwise, we might have to disconnect and get back to you. I don't know if you can hear me, but it's not very clear right now from your end. Hello. All right, I think we'd have to reestablish contact with my guest. Now, I wanted him to also explain to us what the Dangote Refinery meant by sabotage and accusing the IOCs. In fact, if you had followed that story, you must have heard the vice president of the Dangote Industries Limited, Mr. Devakuma Edwin, saying that the foreign multinationals are deliberately frustrating the refinery's efforts to buy local crude by jerking up the price above the market price. And I don't take our minds back to something that was said by the management of Air Peace about international, when it started some international flights, especially to the UK, and how it also came up and talked about how some of these foreign airlines that operate the same route in the country are doing certain things to frustrate business for them. And now you see Dangote saying this. The question is, especially for this situation in the case of Dangote and the fact that we have the crude locally, what would an international oil company do that will cause the government of the country to place priority over its own local business? That's perhaps something that my guest would help us understand, because for many people, it's not really adding up to think that the government of Nigeria doesn't give top priority to Dangote, the refinery, looking at how that would in turn affect the price of the product if crude is sourced locally. Mr. Billy Gillis-Harry, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm with you.
All right, now
it's very clearly. I'm surprised you couldn't hear me.
Yeah, I could hear you now. We can hear you now. We have a commercial coming in under a minute, but can you just explain to us quickly what the Dangote Refinery meant by international oil companies frustrating their efforts to buy local crude? How can that happen? I mean, we would think that the government would give priority to the Dangote Refinery.
Well, it can happen because the crude oil that you are having, that you are producing in Nigeria is a joint venture of your, contract partnership with the Ohio State. So the IOCs have a say as much as the government, even though the government has a higher percentage of the production sharing contract. So if the IOCs begin to increase prices or make it difficult for the crude oil even to be supplied to any refinery in Nigeria, of course, sabotage could be alleged, but we need to, we've only had one third of the story, and for us in PETROAN, we try to make sure that we balance the story.
Okay.
So we also would like to hear from the IOCs
All right.
why they are not.
All right, Mr. Harry, hold your thoughts there and stay on the line for us. We'll take a quick commercial.
Okay.
All right, the conversation continues here on the Morning Crossfire. Good morning. My name is Ifeemi Andrew. The national president of PETROAN is with me on the show this morning, Mr. Billy Gillis-Harry. Sir, thank you for staying on the line for us.
You're welcome.
All right. You were trying to give an insight into how the allegations of the Dangote Refinery make sense and how foreign multinationals and the international oil companies can, influence the price of crude above the market price, because that was what was said by the vice president of the Dangote Industries Limited. He said that they influenced the price above market price. Now it is compelling the refinery to source for crude from countries outside Nigeria, faraway countries like the United States, and that would then influence how much they sell. Now, is it that if this is the case, what would happen with the Harcourt Refinery? Can similar situations happen if the Harcourt Refinery is working? Because or is it also possible that this could also be related to the Harcourt Refinery not working? Can we point towards sabotage from somewhere?
Well, I certainly cannot say that there is sabotage in the case of the Harcourt Refinery. And like I said, even in the Dangote Refinery allegation, we have only heard from one side. We also need to hear from the IOCs exactly what they did. For instance, the NMDPR was also accused of certain policy shifts that were giving some advantage to retail outlets owners, marketers, depot owners to be able to import their own products. Of course, there was nothing wrong with anyone importing more products if the importation cost would not be too difficult to complete, which I know that is not easy. Because when you want to import any petroleum product, the issue of sourcing from funds becomes a very, very critical issue and a knotty one to crack. So I didn't see why any one person should argue why the other one should be given license. Everybody should be given license as qualified, and we should import only what is statutorily approved as our standard, as our specification that's approved by NMDPR for sale. But to get back to your question, Harcourt Refinery, as it is today, I think it's just still technical issues that are coming up, so you cannot say that there is sabotage. If there is one, I'm sure that the managers of the refinery that are putting their best to put the refinery up to work would have shouted out things.
What about the availability of crude? Because, I mean, we've highlighted that modular refineries are suffering that. Modular refineries are suffering that. The Dangote Refinery is suffering that. So would we have enough to go around all these refineries in the country when we look at the situation that we're in now?
Well, we are supposed to produce 2 million barrels per day by the OPEC quota. But I'm sure that there is some dynamics that we can produce as much as we can for our own domestic consumption too. But even the 2 million barrels so far we've not been able to produce, like I said earlier, due to challenges that are in the industry. Most of it that I blame on transparency, because even the IOCs themselves, I cannot in any way say that I trust them, because they come up with expense sheets that only them have control of, and then they only present it to government, to NNPC, for some kind of input and approval. So that in itself is not transparent enough. So that, for me, is even the biggest problem. And we should be transparent to know what we are spending, what we are producing, monitor it very carefully and tightly, and be able to calibrate what income that is supposed to come to us. So, but as far as crude oil production in the country is concerned, I think if we have quite a lot of refineries coming up in Nigeria, the federal government policy on domestic consumption, provision for crude oil domestic consumption should now be reviewed. And then we can know, because I know some of the percentages that were working before, which I can't recall readily, were mostly based on the two refineries. I mean, three refineries that were worried for Harcourt and the two refineries, Harcourt and Warri, because at that material time, Kaduna Refinery was using imported crude oil of a different specification. So there must have been a calculation that was available. But we need to review all of this because we are not static, we're moving. And the time the refinery was built, Nigeria was not anywhere near 90 million people. Today we're over 270 million people. So there's need, to review, recalibrate, and visit the policies that should be able to make us to be more dependable in providing crude oil for domestic consumption. So for me, I will call on the government to review the policies, not just only because Dangote has cried out, but because it might be a big problem in the future. So let the government look at what those policies state and make provision for what our production quota should be and what portion of that should be meant for domestic consumption without the refineries aiming to come on stream, and which is the right thing to do. We have no business importing petroleum products from anywhere.
Okay.
We have, dramatically provided jobs for Europe, Asia, and even the Americas by importing petroleum products from them. And we need to, it's time now that we need to stop that and empower ourselves internally.
All right.
That will guarantee the growth of our economy.
Before we open the phone lines and take the reactions of some of the listeners, tell us, in your capacity as the national president of PETROAN, can you say that at the moment, you had mentioned the NNPC and by extension the federal government, are we still paying subsidy? Because the allegations have been coming that we still are.
That question, I think, has already been answered. The Minister of Finance, whether it's in the flurry of in the one of garden movement, in one of his speeches said, let the cat out. And since then, I thought it should have been a sealed issue that government did no longer say that they are not paying subsidy. If they didn't say that anymore, then it's assumed that subsidy is being paid. Which
Because
is a very big surprise.
Because
be.
the Rain Oil CEO, Mr. Ogbeche, he had said that for now, the federal government pays around 600 billion naira monthly for fuel subsidy. That's Mr. Gabriel Ogbeche, the CEO of Rain Oil Limited, and has claimed that the federal government has resumed the payment of the controversial subsidy following the devaluation of the naira in the foreign exchange market. Now, this was sometime in April when he made this comment. And El Rufai had also come out to also say federal government is paying more money on petrol subsidy than before. In fact, they had even gone, I think it was the Emir of Kanu, that also come out then to say, let us know, let the NNPC be transparent enough to let us see its activities, its spreadsheets, and what the money is at. Is the price of crude at the moment, how much of it, the price of petrol, how much of it is tied to these allegations? Because there are those members of PETROAN that believe, and other sister associations that believe that the price of petrol per litre should be above what it is now if the government wasn't paying subsidy.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the truth. That is the truth. We cannot run away from the fact that should help us to grow this economy. And subsidy payment is not one of those. The subsidy payment will somehow flatten any uprising of any kind due to very difficult hardship. But again, if things are not transparently done and we do not know what exactly this is all about, then these speculations and these worries will continue to pop up from every nook and cranny. So whatever Mr. Obeja has said, I'm sure he has his information, and the man of his caliber would not say anything of that nature if he didn't have empirical evidence to back what he's saying. So other than that, I think that the Minister of the Finance Minister,
Mr. Wale Edun.
Yes. The Wale Edun has one moment said that something was being paid.
Yeah, he estimated the expenditure on petrol subsidy at around 5.4 trillion naira.
So if he said that, then I think it's a settled matter that the government has admitted that they are paying subsidy. So why the subsidy return and when it's returned should be what the question should be. And then the government should be transparent enough to tell us so that we know, because we are there supporting the government for having the courage to remove subsidy. And then now we're being told that trillions of naira are being used to pay for subsidy. When we're crying for 6 trillion that was projected by the last government, that such amount of money will be too among us to pay for subsidy for only PMS. And now we're hearing that we have spent that much or even more. So it's frightening, and I think we need to call all of our National Assembly members to come and let us know what they know about this.
Okay. Before we open the phone lines, just to clarify so people understand, it was a draft copy report of the Accelerated Stabilization and Advancement Plan, ASAP, that was presented to the president by the finance minister, Wale Edun. It was there that he said that the estimated expenditure, that document showed that the estimated expenditure on fuel subsidy for 2024 is 5.4 trillion naira, which is 1.8 trillion naira more than what was spent in 2023. That document was actually designed to address key challenges that was affecting the reform initiatives and stimulate development in various sectors of the economy. Well, we definitely would hear more from the government, but let's quickly get some of the listeners to respond, because I think if there's anything to take out of all you've said, it's the fact that we might have a problem on our hands if we have all the refineries running. Many people are saying, if the refineries all, then the price of petrol will come down. But it looks as though, from what we're seeing now, the signs are pointing to a direction where we might not even have enough crude to go around these refineries, and that builds another problem on its own. And you've highlighted that it could have a lot to do with the policies that the government has on ground that it has to revisit, especially with relations to the IOCs, and so that we can see how we amend this before we get to that point where the Petrol Refinery is running. We have the Warri Refinery running, the Dangote Refinery running, modular refineries running, etc., etc. Quickly, let's get your thoughts. How would modular refineries fare when you look at the situation with the Dangote Refinery? And you've been following the conversation, and I'm sure you have gotten a few points here and there. So let's get your response. 0817-923-0002. You can also reach us on 0817-923-0003. Any of those numbers to get access to us in the studio. On Facebook, a lot of comments coming in. Wanyanwu says, it's a pity until now, refinery not working. Dangote Ability says, I heard that the federal government wants to disburse 1 trillion naira as palliative for households. Yes, it's true. That was said. In fact, to add to it, the Senate president has said no blackmail would stop them from approving the monies for the new presidential jet. So, yes. Those are some of the issues that I'm pretty sure Nigerians would want to talk about. Lawrence Friday says, for me, I think our top leaders are the ones doing this delay of refineries to come into operation because they know what they are gaining from the system as it is now. So they don't want the money that is entering their hands to stop or reduced. But God help us get good leaders that will do the needful for Nigerians. All right, quickly, Ken from Obimini, straight to the point. Let us know what your thoughts are.
Good morning, Ifeami.
Good morning, Ken.
Greetings to your guest. Ifeami, I want to ask, are you aware that the president has given us an account of 8 billion naira in fuel subsidy for 2 months? Up to date, have you heard about the fuel subsidy account again. I am asking you a question. If subsidy is there or not. So if you ask me, I believe subsidy remains. Then I want to talk about the Dangote Refinery, which is now in front burner. We are no longer hearing from the federal government concerning the Harcourt Refinery on how functional it will be before their deadline, if at all there is. Thank you very much.
All right, Ken, thank you. Dakuku from Eche, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Femi Andrew. This is Dakuku from Eche.
Go ahead.
Please, let me tell you, that's the modular refinery you are talking about. If at all it can be, federal government can start it. Instead of fuel will be down, what it is there. Some companies will be back. Most of them are using generator. But all this foreign trade or whatever, who are selling our crude to the country, they stop it. And it cannot affect Dangote Refinery. I just told you, cannot sabotage it because if at all, Dangote is buying here and the whole produce oil here. It cannot afford all this one to buy to another country and transfer to Nigeria. That is Petrol is usual. It is then that will be lost. And they'll be able to come down on his own price. That's the only thing they can do. And to be telling us one thing to affect it. Oh, it's going to be able. Whatever they like, let them buy. And that is to assure the price of this is good. Dangote. Other foreigners. That's what I do. Thank you. This is Dakuku from Okeche.
Thank you, Dakuku. Clearly, it looks as though that even with the refineries, would we see a drop in the price of petrol, especially with what we're going through to access crude? JJ from Rumigbo, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, Andrew, and good morning to your guest.
Okay, go on.
Andrew, are we really thinking in this part of the world? I think the price coming down if the refinery work is one of the most minutest thing right now. We have issues on hand that refinery working can help us. So I don't really care if the price will come down or not, but we should be able to save our naira against the dollar and some other foreign currency and also employ our people. So price coming down is just the smallest thing that we can achieve with that. Why is it that we cannot give what they call crude to those who have finished their modular refinery? Because our people say that if the wind can carry stone, what will not do to ordinary people? If Dangote can suffer all these things that is complaining right now, then who are the smaller ones? So as far as I'm concerned, let the refinery work. Let us know how much is cost of production. Let us save our naira and also employ our people. Is that not good enough? I beg, I just tired.
All right.
Thank you.
David from Yenegua, good morning.
Greetings from the city of Yenegua.
Good morning, David.
My name is David West. I want to reiterate my earlier stated opinion on an interview I granted with respect to this very issue. As far as I'm concerned, the Nigerian government or NNPCL, as it is called, went into an agreement, a partnership agreement, so to say, with Dangote Refinery. And if they have a stake there, it then means they need to protect their stake. I don't think the IOCs should in any way begin to sabotage the effort of Dangote Refinery, where NNPC is also having a stake. Nigerians are having a stake not to have sufficient crude to power its refinery, to run the refinery. This is amazing to me. The IOC should also know that they are operating within Nigeria. And as a matter of fact, it is part of their own corporate social responsibility to also see how the Nigerian economy will grow and not to further sabotage it. I'm saying the Harcourt Refinery, if at all it comes upstream, will also suffer the same fate of non-availability or shortage of supply of crude. It's worrisome. The Minister for Petroleum.
Hello, David.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think shortage of crude, it's not the first time. If we go back to when we had the Warri Refinery functioning, it all started with things like this. Oh, we didn't produce today, no crude. And these things have been happening. Mr. Harry, I know you heard some of the callers, but as we attempt to wrap up in under 3 minutes.
I heard
yes,
them.
eventually, Just let me add this to it so that you respond at the same time. Eventually, for PETROAN, how does all of this situation affect the activities of PETROAN and the pump price of petrol? Because, I mean, for Nigerians, the filling stations are the ones we see, and they are the ones that take most of the heat.
Exactly. Thank you for sympathizing with us. We do the overall job with a very passionate heart, and we still get being hit for it. For us in PETROL, our latest expectation is to see all of these things, roll over with a very strategic plan. We do our comments without everything we can talk about in the media because we are in contact with the government, so we do a thorough analysis of the situation and we try to share those relevant values with the government with the hope, that the authorities will look into it and give specific responses that will solve the problem. Because of fuel, if you recall earlier when we spoke, I asked you whether there was any change of pricing, and you just laughed because that is the problem we're having.
Because a lot of inconsistencies in the prices, different areas, different prices, different stations, different prices. What's the reason?
Exactly. Now, the reason why it's like that is simply because people are sourcing for products from different sources, different times, and it's difficult for you to, insist on a flat price because everybody has it. So the only thing we have done in Petrol is always insist on getting the transaction receipts so that it helps us, and that's what our 3P solution is been achieving for us. So, but however, we just hope that we'll get with this thing to blow over, and then we will get back to normal. But as to when this will happen is what is difficult now to predict. So we're just hoping that Port Harcourt will come on board, then Warrior will come on board.
All right, Mr. Harry.
Kaduna will come on board.
All right, Mr. Gillis-Harry, but we already have to wrap it up, already out of time. Thank you again for your time.